Hey guys, this is Ian, your average consumer, back with another video. And today I'm going to compare the MacBook Air versus the MacBook Pro. If you guys are considering to buy a MacBook for yourself, be it for studies, for work, this video might be able to help you. So if you do like this video, do help me give a thumbs up for it. And if you like this kind of content, do consider to subscribe to my channel. Right, here I have in front of me two different Macs. One is the MacBook Air, one is the MacBook Pro. And what's the difference? So basically, let's talk on, firstly, the price. The MacBook Air is $1,000 US dollars, and the MacBook Pro is $1,300. So there is a $300 difference. Now, so if you ask me, why the $300 difference? So let's get right into it. Firstly, let's talk about the exterior, the design. The MacBook Pro has got a very uniform design in front to the back. Let's focus. So the MacBook Pro has got a very uniform design in the front. Okay, this is the front all the way around to the back. For the MacBook Air, it's got this wedge design from the front to the back. So if you look carefully, the front is a little bit slimmer compared to the back. Okay, let's put the two of them together. So you can see the front is a little bit slimmer for the MacBook Air compared to the MacBook Pro. But when you come to the back, the MacBook Air is a little bit taller compared to the MacBook Pro. Okay, but in terms of design, that is about the difference you can find for both the Macs, because in terms of ports, both the MacBook Air and the Pro comes with the headphone jack on the right side, and it comes with two USB ports on the left side, right? So let's set the two of them down, back down. So open them up again with a one finger test. Let's go to this side. Okay, so it opens with one finger, no problem. All right, so that's for the exterior. Let's talk about the interior. Now, basically, both the Macs comes with the exact same screen, same design, same display. All right, there's no difference between the two. The only difference that you find is the brightness. As you can see, this is the brightest I can get on the MacBook Pro, and same for the MacBook Air. So both are maximum brightness, but if you look carefully, the MacBook Pro is just a little bit brighter. Okay, that's because the MacBook Pro has got about 500 nits of brightness, but for the MacBook Air, it only has about 400. So if you use your Mac outdoors more than indoors, then I would suggest for you to get the MacBook Pro. But if you don't mind the brightness and you are indoors most of the time with this new pandemic, then I would suggest to get the MacBook Air. Alright, so next is the webcam. So both of these Macs come with similar webcams, 720p. So I think there's no difference between the webcams of these two Macs. Next is the keyboard. Okay, so the keyboard, yes, there is a difference, and the difference is the touch bar. If you ask me, I've used these two Macs. I personally like the physical buttons. This is just my opinion. It may not be the same for you. I like personal touch to it. So when I touch the keys, I get a feedback. But when I touch the touch bar, I don't get a feedback. I'm not sure what I'm touching. I personally prefer the touch button, okay, keys, touch keys, and the feedback of the key when I touch it. But the next difference is the travel of the keys and the response of the key when I type. I do type a lot on my Mac, and I think the MacBook Pro, the keyboard, the Magic keys on the MacBook Pro is a little bit more comfortable to type on. It may just be me, but I've used these two Macs and I do prefer the keyboard on the MacBook Pro. Right, next I'd like to talk about the touchpads at the bottom right here. So the MacBook Pro does come with the bigger touchpad compared to the MacBook Air. Personally, I do prefer a bigger touchpad, more real estate for my fingers to roam around. But in terms of responsiveness, sensitivity, and all that, they are both the same. Alright, so no difference on that. Next, let's talk about the speakers. All right, the speakers on the MacBook Pro, they sound better. They've got more bass. The highs sounds a little bit better than Air, so I would prefer the speakers on the MacBook Pro. In terms of MacBook Air, the speakers are okay. It's not terrible, but if you compare it to the MacBook Pro, I prefer the sound coming out from the MacBook Pro. Next is the microphone. Okay, because I use my Mac on meetings and virtual meetings and conferences, so I use a lot of my mic. So this microphone is very important to me, and I find that the microphone on my MacBook Pro sounds better compared compared to the microphone on my MacBook Air. And I do have my friends or my colleagues who tells me that I sound better sometimes. When I look back at the times where I sound better, I was actually on my MacBook Pro. The microphone on the MacBook Pro is better than the MacBook Air. Alright, so that's it for the function of the two of them. The next thing is the battery. Now this is one of the big decision maker for me. The MacBook Pro comes with a longer battery life of 20 hours, okay, compared to the MacBook Air that only comes with about 18 hours. I do feel the difference. I didn't do a physical test, but I tested the two of them on my day-to-day basis, and I find that the MacBook Pro does last longer for me throughout the day. In terms of battery, the MacBook Pro can last longer. I think these are the major differences of these two Macs that I can find, which in my opinion, why the MacBook Pro is $300 more expensive than MacBook Air, right? So these are the differences. If you guys do have any comments, please leave them down in the description below. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys can give me a thumbs up for this video, and if you like this content, do consider to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.